The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part Dos. This is the final movie in the Hunger Games franchise, where Katniss Everdeen must work with other rebels to take down President Snow, who blows. That's been the plot for quite some time. It's about time it comes to a finale. I'll start off by saying the acting in this is as solid as ever. Jennifer Lawrence does a fantastic job once again of playing Katniss Everdeen as a woman who's on the brink of just losing it. You know, she's sick and tired of this war. Although we expect that from Jennifer Lawrence. We expect you to be good, Jennifer Lawrence. The one that really impressed me was Josh Hutcherson as Peeta. Now, I've never had issues with his performance, but I've always thought the character could be more compelling to watch. In this movie, Peeta is traumatized from the events that happened with Snow when he was kidnapped, and he's been brainwashed into believing Katniss is the real enemy, and he really believes that. The dynamics of forms between Katniss and Peeta is actually the most interesting part of this movie. Before, we saw Peeta as one of Katniss's loyal boys. To see his major distrust towards her made for some really compelling drama, especially when Katniss is just really hoping that Peeta will go back to who he once was. And I enjoyed this movie, however, the film is not flawless. A lot of my issues come with the drama of this movie. I felt like a lot of things were on repeat. I mean, there's only so many scenes in a franchise that I could watch of people telling Katniss how special she is, crowds forming when Katniss shows up, Katniss giving some repetitive, rebellious speech, Katniss saying how Snow has to die, and Katniss deciding between Peeta and Gale. Yeah, we've all seen all that stuff before. In some scenes that feature different drama, I felt dragged on for too long. There was some off pace. The film sometimes moves slower than I felt it should have, which is weird to say because it's totally justifiable why it moves slowly. I mean, this is a gloomy, dark world. Like when they enter the Capitol, it's practically a ghost town, so it kind of moves slow, kind of like a Western in a way. Not that I thought they were going for a Western vibe, but that's what I thought. So the slow-moving tension decision makes sense, but sometimes the film just had some really boring scenes. However, the adventure is quite thrilling a lot of the time, because the adventure really takes place when Katniss and her team decide to invade the Capitol, and it's practically abandoned. The Capitol turns into the new Hunger Games in a way. There's pods set up to annihilate any human being that hits this mousetrap. Peacekeepers are ready at a moment's notice to attack. I mean, there were some truly intense sequences on this adventure. Can't give anything away, but the teases we got in the trailer, of that black tar thingy, liquid, I don't know, attacking them, those zombie-like creatures. The intensity of this team being on their own where they have to take on the whole Capitol features some truly intense moments and some wonderful action. I mean, overall, I felt like the film had a decent balance of cutting back to drama and going back to action. Even though I felt at times the drama was new mission, same old drama. I can't spoil anything, but a lot of people are killed off in this film. A lot of people are killed off. However, so many deaths seem to be occurring that they quickly lose their emotional impact. There's one death of a main supporting character that I felt really should have had an impact on Katniss. I mean, yes, we get it in several scenes later where we're okay, so she is bothered by this death. But still, when the death took place, it felt rushed, and I felt like they used the character as a plot device. It was very apparent that they're setting up this character to die in the movie. I do want to point out, though, that I thought Donald Sutherland as Snow, I felt he was more compelling to watch this time around. He's usually rather one-note throughout these movies, but I felt like we got a good sense of loss and despair and loneliness that we didn't really get from President Snow before. And I even found Gale to be more interesting in this film. Usually I kind of don't care about Gale, but I felt his personality more in this film. I felt his purpose. And he has this great scene where him and Peeta are having a conversation one-on-one that I thought was one of my favorite moments of the film. Now, even though I'm pointing out that a lot of the drama was repetitive and that a lot of deaths were not really felt, I don't want people to think I didn't like it at all or even most of the drama. Because I've been saying, there are some truly powerful moments for these characters. It's just that this is a final film in a franchise that had to tie up a lot of loose ends. Same time, keep honoring the source material. So with the final major twist of this film, I mean, I thought it was interesting. It even features a great scene between Katniss and Snow. But even then, I felt the twist could have been more impactful if I was more invested in the character that the twist took place around. And I felt like a lot of characters don't really get resolution or a payoff by the end of this movie. Now, this isn't a spoiler because there's nothing to spoil, but Haymitch, for example, the way they wrapped up his character was a letdown to me. They didn't wrap up his character. You see that from the first Hunger Games, Haymitch is this traumatized, disturbed, angry alcoholic because of the past events that he had to survive. Yet by the end of the film, I felt like we got no real closure on the guy. And I heard they honored the book when it came to this moment, but we spend 4 movies going, is Katniss gonna choose Peeta or Gale? And in the end, with who she chooses, I felt like she didn't even make the choice. I would have liked to have seen her go, you know what, I'm going with this guy. Rather than something happening where you're like, whoa, okay, well, that guy's kind of a dick now, so of course she's gonna go with this other guy. I just don't like cop-outs like that, where the love interest has to choose between 2 characters, and instead of just making a decision, they make one of them out to look bad, so that way they're like, okay, Katniss will obviously choose the other one. I really respected the way this movie ended. This film doesn't end in a way like, all is happy now. I mean, if anything, the trauma and horror is still really resonating in these characters. You really see that in war, there is no real winners, and it's not all beautiful by the end. So I respected that this film did feel like the story has concluded, but it concludes in a rather dark way. I hear the book's even significantly darker. I was still satisfied with going like, yeah, this is not the ending I expected, but I like it. Last thing I want to say, Mockingjay did not need to be split into 2 movies. This was the final film in a huge franchise. I think audiences would have stuck around for 3+ hours for one epic film. So yeah, some of the drama is repetitive. A lot of the deaths were not really felt. I felt like a lot of characters needed some resolution. But in the end, the action was great. The performances were fantastic. There's some great drama between the character interactions, specifically because of the acting. And I feel like in the end of the day, there is enough conclusions that will bring some type of resolution or closure for the audience. And it's much better than Mockingjay Part 1. Hated that film. Anyway, guys, that's it for my review of The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Apparently, people can't tell how I feel about a film unless I give a rating. I give it 3.5 testicles out of a scrotum. Yep. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning into the channel. If you're new to it, subscribe today and become a reject. Because I'm a YouTuber naming the fan base. That's so cool. Nothing like a cheap gimmick to hook people in. Just gave away the secrets of YouTubers.